the Grey Hat Beard podcast.
Hello and welcome to show 34 of Grey Hat Beard, the modern workplace podcast where we talk about all things Microsoft 365. I'm the Grey of Grey Hat Beard. My name's Kevin McDonald. I'm a solutions architect at CPS.
My name's Al Eardley. I'm the Hat of Grey Hat Beard, and I'm a technical architect at Microsoft working in the MTC.
Just wait and see if you got that right or fell into a trap there slightly.
Oh, you're trying to lay traps for me. That's not fair.
Straight away. The beard of Grey Hat Beard is AWOL at the moment. We're hoping you might pop up looking very embarrassed, having forgotten something, but we'll hope you'll be along shortly. But in between, we have a very clean-shaven guest. So, Paul Dredge, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep, great to be here. I don't have a hat, a few grey hairs maybe, and unfortunately no beard. But yeah, Paul Dredge, a senior technical consultant from a company called Hable.
Fantastic. And what do you? I know we were talking a bit about this beforehand. What do you get up to at Hable? A bit of this, bit of that.
Yeah, pretty much everything. So we are a Microsoft change management partner, adoption change management, gold partner. And I sort of lead up the technical side of the business, working with Microsoft 365, so working with Power Platforms, so Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, SharePoint, builds, migrations, and then anything else really in between with Teams and the rest of the 365 suite.
And for anyone watching a video, you're a Sunderland fan that likes Star Trek. Is that right?
Kind of, yeah, nearly there.
So for those who can't see, there's some fantastic Lego Star Wars behind Paul's head and an awful lot of Newcastle memorabilia.
Yeah. Actually, the shirt's got a bit of social media impact. So when I first did this, working from home with COVID, as we all were, I was in a bedroom stuck away in the corner. And thought, this is it. I'm going to be working from home probably for the rest of my life now. I'm not sitting in a spare bedroom or perched on the end of a bed. So I actually did up the office and I had a lot of old Newcastle shirts collecting dust in the loft. So I put them on canvases and put them on the wall and just ran. I thought I'll take a picture, put it on Twitter, my new office. And it actually got retweeted by Newcastle Football Club, which then
nice.
Yeah, you
wow.
think it's great. I was like, wow, they've retweeted it, and it started picking up more traction. And exactly that, I think it got like a million retweets or something ridiculous like that. But my phone was like, no, I had to turn the phone off. I was like, do I delete the tweet? Is it too late now? Because it's just like my day was ruined. You'd think, wow, this is what it's like to be in the limelight of social media. No, thank you.
You didn't get a blue tick off the back of that or anything like that?
No, unfortunately not. No, tried but failed.
That is quite impressive though. I like that.
That's quite a productivity killer then. So tip for productivity. Yeah, don't tweet something that's going to be retweeted quite that much.
Oh, that's quite funny. Well, that kind of picks in with what we're going to talk about in part two. Which if people are listening will be out next week, but we'll be talking about hybrid working. So that sort of thought about setting up the office as many of us have done, sort of made things more comfortable as we know we're going to be there a lot more. I think we'll talk a bit about that and getting back to the office in part two. But in part one, we're going to cover the latest news. And hot off the press today, Al sneaked into the show notes just before me on this one, but Microsoft Teams now has the personal features in Microsoft Teams. So you can bring friends and families together to call, chat and help support them in their stupid questions about IT wherever they may be, which I think is the main purpose of that generally on there.
I agree. That is the only purpose, isn't it? Yeah, it's just to provide technical support.
I can't wait for my mum to message me about this one and say, I'm trying to do a Teams meeting with some of my friends. Can you help me out? You can see it being the bane of my life.
I think the interesting thing will be to see how much is actually different from the version of Teams that we use commercially.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't quite see what is different. I mean, is it a free one or do you have to pay separate for this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's had the option to put a personal account in for a while, hasn't it? But yeah. I don't know, whether it's just an Outlook account rather than an Office 365 account. So it's that free version, isn't it? But just stepping up a level.
I think there are some restrictions around it. But from what I've seen, I mean, I'm not playing with it massively, but you can still do meetings. You've still got your calendar. I think if you scroll down on that article as well, it's got things about there you go, doing tasks. And I just couldn't think anything worse than assigning grocery tasks and stuff. I could just imagine my phone pinging with my wife saying, when you go to the shops, can you pick up bling, 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 and having that grocery shopping list.
But it's all in one place. It's the joy of Teams as a hub, whatever you're doing. But yeah, that's intriguing. Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to go through this today at all.
Yeah, and I think the little surveys in there as well, using forms. It's going to be interesting to see how much people actually adopt it and how much they use it. See how many people go away from using WhatsApp as a team chat to using Teams personal. I think it will pick up for those of us who are already understand that people using it at work might pick up on it and use it, but it'll be interesting to see how much it actually picks up.
I mean, this part here's quite interesting, where they're saying about switching between the accounts, because that's what I was thinking. Like, if you've got your personal account and your work account, how is that going to interact? I mean, that GIF there showing you a smooth transition, but it's going to be the same on the mobile device and so on.
I'm looking for the message underneath that says actual performance may not be quite the same as this. Although it's interesting, when you switch to personal, by the look of that, it spins up a separate instance. So they're obviously trying to sell more RAM and things like that as well.
Don't know what you mean.
No, I think it's a good step, and I must see my family for the first time this weekend. Just great looking forward to my brother and my parents all meeting up, and we're hopefully, fingers crossed, going on a holiday together. So having one place, we've been meeting on Teams every weekend. The idea of having one place where we try and organise the trip and put it all coordinated, I do quite like the idea of that. So I might get them to bring their laptops and get them all set up this weekend. So next show, I'll let you know how it's gone.
That definitely is an advantage of Teams. Yeah, bringing the family together to organise a trip, definitely an advantage.
Yeah, but yes, definitely. And I've sort of tried that a bit with just getting people and using OneNote and things like that. And I think they found there was too many different apps. So if that can all be via one app on Teams, brilliant. Continue on the Teams news side of things. There was webinars have finally been released, which I know we have been waiting for a little bit of time. I don't know if there are issues or what, but it certainly felt like it's dragged out a little bit. But looking forward to giving this a go. I will be honest, I haven't tried this out yet, but it seems a nice idea. I think that ability for people to register on there, I can see from the GIF that you can kind of customize the screen itself that people are registering on, which I think it's good to be able to give that little touch to it to make it feel like your organisation's one. You wonder how much others are going to be nervous that people are going to move to Teams for this, especially if it's all included in the price. It could be a bit of a kick to go-to meeting and others.
I think that's where it's targeted, isn't it? I mean, that's, the number of times, I know both of you do a lot of community events. Some of them are live events, some of them are Teams events, some of them are other platforms which we all kind of shudder at. But I think this is where commercially there's a massive opportunity, and I know we've talked about it before, that a lot of organizations do an awful lot of webinars, and just having it built in to use the same platform but just with different controls makes an awful lot of sense, rather than having third parties involved, with which maybe, I mean, I hate to say it, but some of them don't even blur your background. I mean, and that's just kind of like, wow, where am I sitting? Perched on the corner of the bed or in the shed. If you can't blur your background, you don't necessarily look quite so professional, do you? So yeah, I think this. And I think integration with Dynamics.
I was just distracted thinking that with the kind of Newcastle pictures behind. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, I get quite a few people on call saying, "God, I wish you'd just blur your background or use the company branded backgrounds." I think I'm the rogue one in my organisation that doesn't use Hable branded background.
Oh no, we don't like that. Sorry, nothing against Hable, but generally the branded backgrounds is what I mean there. And I have to say I'm looking forward on this post. It also talks about some of the new features coming with the presenter mode, which I'm really looking forward to. And to be honest, one of the things I hate when recording Grey Hat Beard is we're showing the article now, little teeny tiny pictures down there, and so you don't hear us so much until I stop sharing, and then we pop up and show a bit bigger on there. So it would be nice to be able to change this and be interesting to see. I'm guessing it only shows one presenter at a time rather than multiple for that. So yeah, I don't know how that will work with news articles and bits like that. I guess it only works with PowerPoint, doesn't it, rather than sort of sharing screens.
I did see someone present at Teams Nation, and they had the options at the top, but they didn't use it. So it must be there in some tenants already.
It is when we have seen it. So some of my colleagues at CBS have got kind of inner ring builds through the engagement, so it's definitely available. The funny thing is, if you don't have it yourself, you see the person with a black background, and that's it. So, and it doesn't actually overlap, so it really is a bit pointless from that sense.
That's maybe why they didn't use it then.
So yeah, it'd be interesting with the rollout for that. Whether they have to roll it out to everyone before it in any way becomes useful, but could be intriguing.
That's the case. I know what you mean. I know it because I had a couple of presenters who were obviously in a ring, and I kind of went, well, sorry, I can see your background's blacked out. You're trying to do the present, and it's not showing up either. So just so that you know, it's not showing up the way you think it is.
And there was someone who had black as their background, and suddenly felt very silly.
There was one person who did have a black background. Luckily, I had Microsoft written across it, so it was kind of like, I'll not say this to him. Yes.
Finishing up the Teams news, there was some nice details on some new adaptive cards features. I need to get which way this mouse is scrolling. So they've updated the version of adaptive cards and added features. So the adaptive cards, if you haven't seen, used a lot with Power Automate when you're pushing messages into Teams, and allows you to kind of render in a consistent way across Teams, Outlook, bots as well in cases, Windows, as it says there, supporting that and rendering the detail. So there's a few really nice bits actually. So it feels like quite a big jump for adaptive cards. So you can bring those full width cards into Teams, which can be very useful. Type ahead support, so you can, within those cards, it's not just displaying information, you can also put forms, and it's included type ahead for choices, which I think is useful. Information masking. I get slightly intrigued about this one. Why you want people entering passwords into a Teams message seems slightly ominous, but I guess there could be some good reasons for that.
That one, I would be digging into whether if you've got retention policies, those passwords are kept in retention policies. Passwords
for security and compliance, but good point. Yeah, good point.
Passwords concern me putting them into Teams.
Yeah. I mean, there are cases, I know when you're doing the authentication, a box pops up and you need to put things there, but it doesn't necessarily sit within a message. So I'm sure there is a good use case we're missing there around that one.
It's worrying where that would end up as well in the background. Is that sitting in some Q&A maker database somewhere?
Yeah, starting to be rolled up into your topics.
Yeah.
But I suppose if it's masked, better than if it's not. So you could probably build a game with it like that, of people guessing what you're saying and that kind of thing.
Hangman, excellent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As you say, there's going to be some use cases, and they've obviously had quite a demand for it. So I'm sure everybody who's requested it already has use cases for it.
Mm. And a nice one, I do like this as well, the ability to kind of an expanded view of the images. Which I think would be very useful. I can't remember if I've talked about it on Grey Hat Beard, but I do have a bot called the Where on Earth bot that takes either daily Bing background or a random image from Google somewhere around, and everyone has to guess where it is. And at the end of the day, it sort of works out who's guessed the closest location. And one of the pain is that you can't expand it. So sometimes a small image, you end up sort of staring at the screen going, I think I can read that text there. And those in the know have realized that you can actually, you can zoom a lot more easily on the phone app. So tend to use the phone app. So having that expander will be quite useful. Other news. Just trying to find the link to this one, which I can't remember if I have open. So we might just talk about this one because there wasn't that much in there. But I think, Paul, you saw from the Microsoft 365 roadmap that there's a new addition to Migration Manager.
Yeah, and it's quite surprising that it is a new addition. We spoke about it earlier, but Dropbox is being added to the Migration Manager. So you can migrate directly from Dropbox into somewhere in 365, which I thought would have been there before, and I'm sure many of us did as well with things migrating from Dropbox, but it seems it was announced in the news a couple of days ago in the Action Center.
Yeah, it's very strange. And they said in the Action Center that it was about the recent acquisition of Mover.io, which I'm sure, I know I've lost sense of time at the moment, but I'm sure that was like 18 months ago, if not longer.
I'm sure that's been there, but we'll have to try and dig through the history and see.
But nice, I think good, effective if you're on Dropbox. There's a free tool for migrating your content out of Dropbox into SharePoint, which it's always the right thing to do, I'm sure. Kind of related news is a strong message for it. I was going through the tech community. I have to be honest, I'm not very good at answering questions in there. I keep trying to up my game and to keep an eye on that. I tend to get the email exactly when I'm in the wrong place to kind of answer it and never get round to it later. But I've been trying to answer a few more things in there and was uploading a screenshot for someone. I think it was about Microsoft Search. And as it was uploading, it took a little time. And I happened to notice in the corner it said .box.com. And I was like, you what? So I tried uploading it again, this time with developer tools, and it does look like uploads for the Tech Community Center on Microsoft are actually held in Box, which I thought was rather intriguing. I kind of think they have their own technology. You know, it's not like SharePoint, OneDrive maybe doesn't make sense, but certainly Azure storage, you would have thought it could go into that relatively easily. But there we go. Who are we to judge for Microsoft?
Bit more digging to find out the truth behind that one. That is an intriguing one.
I do have it on my list. Sorry, Al, I forget we keep being rude about Microsoft.
That's all right.
I know you can't be anymore. So
I was going to say he's got his Microsoft hat on, hasn't he? So he's got.
Exactly. And other news, and I really like this one, and again haven't had a chance to use these. I have been playing around with Syntex quite a bit recently and digging deeper into it. And Bert Janssen has published on the PMP samples a whole load of Syntex samples. So if you have been trying it, maybe finding some of the explanations and the details around that a little confusing, you can go and have a look at the samples on this. And they've got some, for example, a contract notice, trade confirmation services agreement, and they've got the details. So the classifier and extractor, and it looks like the training files are included with that. And there's been a recent change to the PMP PowerShell where you can actually upload those classifiers using PMP. It's a bit like PMP provisioning. You can kind of extract that content and re-upload it. And it's got all the examples in there. And I'm just looking and noticing they got that training files, which for anyone who may be talking to a user group about SharePoint Syntex and are looking for some sample files, that could be quite useful.
Yeah, it could be quite useful for somebody in that position.
Well, that's my evening sorted anyway.
I wonder if we know anybody who's going to be able to comment on how effective the samples are by Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock.
That could be quite useful.
I'm surely someone would be prepared for Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
You would
already have their own.
Way ahead of time.
You would
way ahead of time. For those wondering what we're talking about, we will talk about upcoming events a little bit later, and that may come back and remind you there. Al, there's a few bits around the security links. So you have one on the benefits of deploying built-in labeling within Microsoft 365 apps.
Yeah, and I think this one's not really massively technical, but it just goes through some really nice sort of use cases and why everybody should be thinking about it. But actually, right down at the bottom, it has a whole bunch of links around feature parity, which are really useful to be able to see what you can and can't do. You know, assigning permissions, dynamic markings, assigning the sensitivity labels to content automatically. There's all sorts of useful information in there. And it just, as a reference, it's a really good reference, just to be able to understand a bit more about what you can do and what versions of things you need to be able to do that. Because I think, the built-in labeling is essential for most organizations, but most organizations don't really use it. So it's a really useful reference article.
Yeah, it's intriguing, this one.
So if you're not
reading more about.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not familiar with what labeling can do and the information protection, then go through this article. It's a really good overview. Lots of really useful links in it. And then I think that it kind of ties with the other link that I put out was from somebody, Rue Campbell. 3 considerations for Azure information protection deployments, and this is really bringing his experience of what these labels do. And again, this is a really, really useful article that helps you understand some of the considerations that you need to think about when you're actually rolling this stuff out, because so much of this is really hard to plan for because there's so many ins and outs around it. But these sorts of articles just really help you kind of go, okay, these are the features that we need, and to have a good starting point and just to work through what you should be doing to start with. So yeah, together I've seen there's there's something in the air that's just around the information protection. So a couple of good articles to give you an insight into what you can and should be doing.
Stupid question time. I'm good at these. Isn't Azure information protection no longer around? No AIP labels are pretty much being replaced by sensitivity labels, but is AIP still considered there, or that's just the old name for it? It is deprecated on there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it is deprecated. So, and if you look at, I think it was Rue's article that says Azure information protection, he does actually say that it is Microsoft 365 sensitivity labels in the first sentence. So but a lot of people are familiar with the term Azure information protection, and there is still, as with all of these things, there's still a transition in terminology going on, not only from a Microsoft perspective, but also clients starting to really understand that actually it's all moved over into Microsoft 365 now.
Do you do much, Paul, with security and compliance, or are you? Normal?
Yeah, we do quite a lot of governance. Normal. I love that.
Al didn't like that. They missed that dip there. Sorry.
Yeah, we do a lot of governance workshops where we're raising awareness. We don't do too much around the configuring, but it's like raising the awareness of what is possible. Don't really like to get stuck in with setting it up for people, because it's quite of a messy area to go into in some organizations. But no, I mean, one of my pleasures, but when we're doing governance workshops, is where is the security center today? Is it going to be in security and compliance? Is it going to be in security? Is it going to be compliance? It's which one are we faced with today when we're doing our demo of such?
Is that like Where's Wally?
I have to say, I do agree, it does change a lot. But just before I left, we had a good run through of the sort of latest security and compliance, and it really feels like it's caught up. I quite like it now.
Definitely, yeah. I know. Not recently, or going back a while, but did a governance workshop, and it was e-discovery's gone. So e-discovery's not there. So we won't talk about that. We'll talk about the new, I think it's just called Discovery Tool or something like that they've rebranded it. And I went in, I did a lot of prep on it, went in, I was like, oh, bugger me, e-discovery's back. So I had this whole slide about how e-discovery's gone and that you've got to do different ways of finding it. And there it was right in the demo. I was like, brilliant.
Because you not just put your mouse over the E, the little
bit.
So I hope no one noticed.
Exactly that,
yeah. I mean, I think this is the thing, that whole sort of security compliance piece has developed so much over the last couple of years, and the changes in interface and the admin centers and where you go, and you can still see that every time you go in, check and make sure nothing else has changed, because it is evolving, but I think it's evolving for the better, because it is just making it more consistent, easier to use once you've found it.
There's that time that you click on the odd link and it takes you to the old version as well.
Yeah, I did the information protection exam, the SC 400, and I was dreading it, having the questions about where do you click to get to these things.
Are you wrong? Are the questions wrong? You just never know.
Yeah. And what day were you writing this?
Poor people who have to write that. I know Pete Rising. He must have to update new versions of his book every other week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Moving away from security and compliance into a section I've termed other. And I thought some quite other interesting news you'll find out this week, especially the huge shortage in digital skills.
Yeah, I think this was really interesting because this was Mark Wright, a former apprentice winner who's got a marketing organisation, talking about how hard it is to find skills and to find not just digital skills and understanding what a computer is, but the skills that we really work with, recently developed skills that, you know, you can't ask for 10 years of experience of. You can only ask for, do you know the latest version of something, you know, and it's talking about how hard it is to actually find people who are staying on top of the latest technology. And for me, I mean, it's one of those things that I've done it for the whole of my career, tried to stay on top of the latest technology. But I look at, you know, my daughter and her generation going through GCSEs, and, you know, they could just as easily go out and learn this stuff and be just as good as us at this stuff within a couple of years of practicing it.
The speed we go these days, better in no time.
Yeah. And I think this is the thing, is there's so much opportunity that, you know, people cross-skilling and people thinking about, you know, and I know we're going to talk about working from home later, but there's so much potential at the moment to kind of move into these modern digital, and I say modern because it is things that are sort of less than 5 years old, modern digital skills.
But I think also that people coming in from different aspects brings so much more towards it. It's interesting you saw this because there was Chloe Condon, Condon, just in case anyone's wondering. She's on Twitter, and she does a lot about developer relations, you know, sharing what you can do with developer tools and things like that. And she'd come actually from a kind of theatre background. She'd come from acting, doing musical theatre, discovered coding and moved into coding from there. And it just brings such great different perspective to it. And certainly, you know, we try and be entertaining and things like that, but you've got someone who's come from musical theatre, brings a very different way. Donna Sarker, I think she came from, was it Donna? There was someone else in the Microsoft 365 or Power Platform space that has come from a very different industry. And it brings new ways of thinking about it. And I think it's really important to get that diversity. Yeah, I absolutely agree with diversity in sort of different aspects of people, but where people's backgrounds have come from brings so much more to it as well.
It creates different ways of thinking, different ways of approaching problems. So yeah, I think it's really interesting that there's such a big shortage and so few people available to actually fill the vacancies that are out there.
Yeah, it was interesting. And then another BBC article. I can tell you've been busy at work today, Al.
I've been saving these up for weeks.
Actually, it was 4th of May. You know, fair play, I'll give you that. Hang on, you were still in the old job at that point. Hang on a minute. No. I thought this is very interesting. You know, Sony's PlayStation to integrate Discord chat for gamers, which is a headline. It's interesting that Discord's in there, but I think it's a bit more from previous news we've talked about, Al.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, coming back to community events, you know, organisers are using all sorts of different tools to try and facilitate, you know, an effective conference that has, you know, ways to communicate. And I know several of them have used Discord as a platform for hosting conversations and chat, which is the way I came across it, not being a massive gamer. But it's got so much potential that Microsoft were looking at buying it. And I think we discussed this a couple of shows ago. But then that fell through, and now Sony are investing, and it's getting built into the PlayStation platform. And, you know, I think it's a loss for Microsoft that they didn't manage to come to an agreement to actually purchase it. But it's one of those things, isn't it, that you kind of look at these different platforms and the value to the tech companies as to how they integrate, you know, not Discord as a platform, but the service it provides, the value it provides to end users, it's intriguing to see how these come up and people want to buy them, and then they get moved across and it's seen as a loss.
Are you a gamer or a Discord user, Paul?
Well, not really. My son's a big gamer. He lives on an Xbox, as many kids do. A bit frightened by the sunlight and stuff like that. But no, I mean, it's strange because I still watch him game sometimes and play with him now and then. But like that whole aspect of social part of like Discord offers. I mean, he's often streaming and then has his iPad set next to him with the chat and stuff like that. Or if he's watching someone on YouTube, then again, he's watching people on the chat and stuff. And it's just strange how gaming for people isn't just about playing the game. It's that whole community presence and social aspect, which is changed. I remember when I was a kid, you played a game, you didn't play online or anything, you just played on your own and you sort of sat in a dark room and didn't speak to anyone. But nowadays it's more of a social thing than actually playing the game. It's let's get online with some friends and people and thrash out and kill some people or whatever it may be.
Well, funny you say that, but there's things, my son went through a big phase of Animal Crossing and let's build things and be sensible together. It's a nice range, and I think I wouldn't say the gaming community. I know there's lots of fairly painful conversations that go on around gamers in some cases, but I think it has broadened out its appeal, which is brilliant. So trying to move on a little bit. One thing we will put in the show notes, I was just clicking on the link there and trying to get it to work, but realised I don't have a TikTok account. But in our show before last, we had Christos Matskas come and talk about identity management, and he's actually got a series of videos on TikTok showing an introduction to Git, which I think is fantastic, and I really like that kind of branching out into different channels and things that people are doing. So I know I've forgotten, Scott Hanselman has done some great TikTok videos about coding and getting people understanding a bit there in kind of short, easy to consume formats, and it's nice. We did talk about it there. Now maybe Grey Hat Beard on TikTok, we could have some things on there.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the best old man grumble. Thank you.
It's funny you talk about TikTok because Mike Folson, I don't know if you heard of him, big in the Microsoft education community. He says he gets more success and more people responding to him and watching his content through TikTok than any other platform, which I think is a bit crazy.
I think it's one of those format things, though, isn't it? It's the formats that we're comfortable with. Are they, an hour, 50 minutes, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 minute? It starts to. I always find the shorter it is, the harder it is to actually come up with good content, which is why TikTok at a minute I'm kind of like 10 minutes is impossible. 1 minute I wouldn't even know where to start to plan 1 minute. But
I just find it strange for the users of TikTok because I just vision people watching dogs do stupid things or cats jumping through bins or whatever it may be, and then all of a sudden you got like how to send a chat message in Teams. It just doesn't, I don't know how it quite fits together with what people are watching.
That's where personal teams comes in, you see.
Yeah, of course.
But I think it's also targeted particularly at people with maybe shorter attention spans, and it's the perfect bite-sized chunks and link off to other ones. But yeah, I definitely agree with the time taken to create those, which is why people may have seen the Grey Hat Beard bite size has gone a little bit quiet. I'm hoping to get more of those together. I know how we talked about maybe doing some security and compliance bite-sized ones there, but it takes a lot of time to get useful content. That's nice.
It does, yeah.
Talking about useful content, got a few events coming up. And why is that not? There we go. So big one, we've got Build coming up 25th to 27th of May. I know the session schedule is available for that, so you can start to see what's coming up. Interesting, I only found one Viva session on there, so it'd be interesting to know if there's more coming or whether just isn't so much around the developer side of Viva, but I'm hoping so. Fingers crossed. But it's still an awful lot of good events there.
I haven't seen much on Viva in it, but there's a lot in there that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and some great speakers. Some guy, Satya Nadella, I've heard of him, seems to be quite good. It's always a good event. Talking of good speakers, next Wednesday, May the 19th, is the Microsoft 365 Security and Compliance Center. There's one good speaker, Patrick Van. Compliance user group. I'm starting to read something else at the same time.
You're gonna have to tell us what URL that center's at, because it's going to move by Wednesday. The user group will stay in the same place, though.
Excellent. The session I'll be talking on compliance labeling with SharePoint Syntex and trying to dodge any license questions that at least I know the answer to now, and it's particularly painful. But if you want to know more, come and join on Wednesday. And also we've got Patrick talking on Office message encryption, securely sending email via Microsoft 365. It says Office there, but I'm going to update that for him. It does remind me, I'm seeing popping up in the corner. We also had our last week happy hour etiquette, how to enable hybrid work session, and we'll be having another one of those soon. So as soon as we got them there, we'll share links to that. Been having lots of fun developing on my own Teams meeting to try and stop some of the issues Al was having with the timer on that one. So yeah, there will be a new app for that. Some brilliant news for the South Coast Summit, 16th of October, and you can now actually get your registration going. So registration is open. I know there's been, I think the aim is 1,400 attendees, but tickets are absolutely flying. I was speaking to Aaron about it today, and it's given some really good, excited people coming along to that one. I know everyone's slightly unsure about what the situation's going to be and hoping that the various variants of COVID floating around aren't going to put a kibosh, but there are plenty of plans ready to make sure whatever happens, we can go ahead with something. So
it's on a good date as well. It's the day after my birthday, so
oh, excellent.
If I make it, then
come down for the workshop
birthday celebrations. Yeah.
So I was going to say, if the pre-conf days, you come down for those. That'll be you. What better way to celebrate your birthday?
So I think Al, you're doing a security and compliance.
Yep, we got
that day.
Yeah, we got.
You're not going to do it the day before, so it's ready on that day, or?
Well, yes, we are planning to make sure that it is ready by then. But yes, we've got some exciting hackathon ideas for that. So that'll be an exciting one.
So there are a whole load of pre-summit workshops, very cheap workshops on there, so well worth looking out for, whether it's RPA, Microsoft Azure, Teams apps development. I'm going with Zoe Wilson and Chirag Patel to do one about Viva and Cortex. Should say Viva and Syntex. I need to speak to Aaron to update that on the website. God, kids today. On there's a sharing is caring workshop. I think they've got a hackathon, haven't they? A Power Platform hackathon as well that Chris Huntingford's running with others. Yep. So many things going on, and we are excited about it just because
those are all paid for, but they are limited numbers, so you get a quality volume of input from the experts who will be in the room. So well worth it. You can't get better value for money than those days. Absolutely.
No, they're very cheap for what they are. Other one, talking about other in-person conferences, there's Comsverse in was it September, isn't it?
Yep.
Coming up for that one. And just a reminder, we may have mentioned this in previous show, but we are up on the Tech Community Awards for Community Podcast, and if you fancied voting for us, all you have to do is click on Grey Hat Beard and place my vote. It's very easy, Paul, if you haven't done that already.
If you are voting as well, if you scroll up to the top, you'll see that I'm up for one as well for.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
That? Sorry.
For newcomer.
Yes,
Rising Star Award. So,
I should remember that because I did actually vote for you as well. Mostly because I was like, Carolina, Rising Star. She's not a rising star. She's been shooting up for a long time now. But we'll move on from that. She is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I'm well deserving of an award, but well beyond rising star, if you ask me.
Tough competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving very quickly on. A few other events. We've got SharePoint Saturday Cologne happening on the 29th of April. And Al, you're
May.
About
29th of May.
20th of May. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can't count. As I was saying, thinking, ooh, that's going to be bad. Yep. 29th of May, and you're talking on
Viva Insights and workplace analytics to measure well-being and productivity.
Which is fantastic. And just after you, I'll be talking about an introduction to knowledge management with Viva topics. I was getting slightly distracted flowing through this by the sheer number of different Viva sessions that are going on. Prepare your intranet for Microsoft Viva with Nuts. And what was the other one I saw? SharePoint Syntex with Pete. He's not just going to copy my session from Wednesday and do that.
Yeah, he's just going to rename it.
Yeah. Moving on very quickly again, M365 Chicago, and Al, you're again speaking on Viva Insights.
Indeed, yep.
So wherever you are, come and join that session, and make sure you bring a good question with you as well.
Yeah, questions are always welcome.
Awkward questions to keep Al entertained.
No, just good questions. They don't have to be awkward. It certainly don't have to be about licensing.
Absolutely.
That's everyone's fear, isn't it, when it comes to Viva?
When it comes to any questions, yeah.
Anything security and compliance, yeah. Well, otherwise, thank you very much. I think that's the end of part one for this week. But we're going to be moving on and recording right away now part two, where we're talking about the hybrid work and what it means. But you'll have to wait a week for that. So if you're bored, go back and look through the other shows. You may have listened to them. Give them another listen. If you're still bored, go and write a review, put it up on iTunes, Spotify, whatever you can. Tweet about us. Let us know if you've got this far on the show. Then hopefully you've enjoyed it, and it's not just because your podcast player is stuck. So please, go and help us share it to others and let them know. Otherwise, thank you very much, and we'll speak to you next week. Bye. Grey Hat Beard Podcast. Listen out for part 2 in 1 week's time.